Final hour overdrive continues. TSN 1050 now up on TSN 2. Brought to you by FanDuel. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Jays Yankees tonight. Seeing that Vladi has got some soreness in his knee. He's going to DH tonight. And
he was limping last night a little bit there. I think the one hit when he was first or second, then he limped off.
Right.
And you could tell right away he was a little uncomfortable.
This is what I do love about Vladi. Like, we've talked a lot about his season and how it's been underwhelming, and it has. Statistically, it's been underwhelming based on expectations. But this guy plays ball, man. He loves to play. He wants to play. He shows up to play.
Every day. You've mentioned it numerous times. This guy is a gamer, and he's an everyday gamer.
Yes. And if it's up to him, he's playing. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall, though, with Atkins and Schneider. Like, when do you give him a day off? Can you give him a day off? Can you afford to, if you're thinking big picture? When do you have faith that you're going to make the playoffs? And I don't think they can be there yet. And obviously, he plays an incredibly important role.
Is he playing tonight?
He's DHing again tonight. Yeah, he's playing. Like, they're going to run him out. And I understand why they're doing that, but at some point, they just had an off day. You only got so many games left. But I would think if they win tonight, maybe you give them off tomorrow. Like, at some point, do you say, we got to take the foot off the gas here a little bit with Vladi?
Well, dude, as much as he's a gamer and a competitor, Hayes, he's also not a dummy. If he thinks he's risking anything long-term with his status and where he's at in his career and contract status and all that, he'll pull the plug. Because you know his dad would be in his ear, his agent was be in his ear. Competitor, gritty, team guy, but he's also not stupid. So if it was something that would kind of jeopardize the future, I think he pulls the pin.
Right. I agree with that, and clearly it's not. They're saying it's nothing muscular. There's nothing going on that should lead to surgery. It's just general soreness. Listen, Bichette's banged up. He's playing through something. Chapman's banged up. He's playing through something. This is the time of year where everyone in baseball is doing that. I'm just saying for the betterment of his production. Like, if it gets worse, is he going to play poorly? You know, at what point does it become a strategy where you say, it's not about worried of, what's he going to feel like in a month or two or long-term health, in terms of the rest of his life. It's about how's he going to produce at the plate. And if you completely shut him down for a day, is there any benefit to that? I don't have the answer. I would think this is where sports science comes into play. They only have so many games left.
Sports science is out the window with the situation they're in. Yeah. They're trying to make a run. Guys do anything to play. Well, anything to play.
And that's what we're seeing tonight.
Yeah, as soon as you're in or out, then the general manager comes down to the locker room and says, might as well shut her down now. Mm-hmm. No sense. But while it's still on, everybody's playing.
And he's going tonight.
Experience.
He's going tonight. Bichette's going tonight. I hear you. But, it's a new era in pro sports, right? Load management is a part of the lexicon. But there's 11 games left, and Vladi's playing. And I commend him for it. I do. I commend him for it. I'm just talking about the strategy of the big picture. Like, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you take him out of the lineup trying to save him for October and you don't make it to October, right? But if they can win tonight, if they can take the series in New York, at some point I think that might be probably a worthy strategy, right? If you feel like you've got enough room here and enough wiggle room to feel good about making it in, then you got to start thinking that way. But won't be the case tonight. Vladi in the lineup, DHing. So, Jays, Yankees tonight. Toronto FC down in Miami, taking on Messi for the first time. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think, Grappler, you sent that to me. JP sent it to me, right? Was it, plus 155 for him to score 2+ times?
Two plus times?
2 goals tonight. Do you know how tough it is to score twice in soccer? And you're only getting plus 155. That's basically FanDuel saying, this guy's going to score twice tonight.
It's a lock.
We'll give you a little bit of juice. Like, we'll give you a little bit of plus money, but they fully are expecting him to put on a clinic. And why wouldn't you be? Toronto FC is one of the worst teams in MLS. And Messi's at home. Right? He probably plays 65 minutes tonight and scores twice.
Have they lost a game yet? Like, with him playing? I don't know if they have.
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have.
They've completely turned everything around because of him. And him alone. And they're bringing over more guys. Like, I had read Griezmann's, I don't know if that's become official or not, but Griezmann's like a French international who's a stud player. And he's looking at coming over too.
Dude, there's been a couple like real legitimate game changers, like whole game changers, Messi being one. and Deion Sanders being the other coaching. It's
That's
just
right.
like, you want to talk about like completely changing the game with one guy's influence and ability and stardom. Like those two guys have just flipped the switch for wherever they've gone.
Yep.
Miami and Colorado. It's insane how impressive it is and awesome it is.
You're right. That's a good point, too, about Deion. He's not even on the field yet.
No.
Like, they're playing Oregon this week, and it's a 3:30 primetime ESPN game. Everyone's freaking out. They're like, Fowler and Herbstreit have to call that game. I don't think they are. But that's the A team for ESPN for college football. It's Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. And people are freaking out that they're not calling a Colorado Buffaloes game.
Dude, it's like it's
That's how
like
big he
taking over the nation. How everyone wants to watch that. It's become must-see television.
It really is, and his recruiting is just going to get better and better and better. Because if you're a kid throughout the country, you're like, look at Deion. Look what's going on.
I want
to
get new glasses. I want to be on ESPN. I want to be a part of the mix.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's an incredible job. And they're 3-0. Oregon, I believe, is 3-0. It's going to be a big game. And Messi and Inter Miami up against TFC tonight. But the Leafs are back in town. NHL camps are wide open league-wide. There's a lot going on, a lot of news already, and we haven't really hit the ice yet. To chat about it, here's our TSN hockey insider, Darren Dreger. What's happening, Dregs?
Hey, guys, just following up on your comment there on the Colorado Buffaloes. So I was in Buffalo for the Prospects Challenge on the weekend, and I'm in my hotel room Saturday morning, and I'm watching game day, and it was, well, I finally left. But, I mean, it was 2+ hours, and I'm sure it went all day long of Dion, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson was on that panel. I mean, go down the list. And The Rock is, like, shilling Dion's sunglasses. I'm like, oh, boy.
Insanity.
What do we ever have? It's insanity. I mean, we'll never get to that place.
I know.
No, probably not in hockey, but it was something to behold, to be sure.
Yeah, you're right. Like, they had all the shows out there. Stephen A. Smith was out there, Pat McAfee, The Rock was out there, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, it was just insane who's flying in to watch the Colorado Buffaloes. They had no national profile prior to him showing up.
No, they didn't, but they do now.
They sure do.
I feel that wasn't there some infighting? Wasn't Stephen A. Smith going at it with somebody on Twitter the other day? Was it Michael Irvin?
No, him and Terrell Owens. Him and T.O. They have some serious
T.O.'s
beef.
like, bring it on, man. Like, man, like you just sit back and watch them. Like, they're literally arguing on Twitter in front of the world.
Going back, like throwing haymakers, too.
Don't make me tell that story. I'll tell stuff about you that nobody's here.
No kidding.
What are we doing here?
No kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you make of news out of Leaf camp that William Nylander is going to be starting to camp up the middle of the ice? And I'm curious if you think that has anything to do with contract negotiations. Does it factor in anything to the big picture of William Nylander as a Maple Leaf?
I don't think it does. I mean, it can't hurt him, right? Like, if he starts at center and they have success and he has success, I mean, anything that Willie does before he extends his contract in Toronto is going to have an influence on how that negotiation goes. But I want to give Sheldon Keefe more of the benefit of the doubt here. He's going to put a player at center ice that he believes is going to give him the depth and the best chance of winning. Maybe this is an acknowledgement that Tavares isn't what he once was, and that's not an indictment on John Tavares. That's just an acknowledgement that Father Time eventually grabs hold. So does he want a little bit more creativity up the middle? I don't know, because he would also acknowledge, again, let's see where Tavares and Nylander fit if they're on the same line. Tavares normally, you guys, I think, would agree or disagree, have at it, is a fairly solid defensive player. Mm-hmm. Are you going to lose that by pushing him to the wing? And, hey, if it pumps the tires of Willie and he takes that 8x9 or, whatever they're willing to get close to, then it's a win-win for everyone, as long as he can play the position as well as they need him to play that position.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, I think his value's been probably established. I would think Brad Treliving's put numbers in front of him and said, this is where we think you are. And I don't think that will necessarily change. In fact, I really don't believe it will, regardless of what position he plays. But versatility never hurts. And what's clear is, the evaluation of any team really begins the day after the trade deadline in this era, doesn't it, Dregs? With how much activity happens, how much team building has to take place once the cap is worked out, once a third of the teams in the league have decided they're willing to sell. It seems to be the case basically every year now.
It does, and also your window of opportunity closes, right? And I mean, that's just obvious, but it can be amplified purely by contract status. And it's going to loosen a little bit as the salary cap goes up. But now you've got Matthews signed. Obviously, William Nylander is target one for Brad Treliving, and see how that works out. But, if you win this year or you win next year, there's a big difference in that because you don't have William Nylander under contract past this year. So it goes beyond when you're prepping at the trade deadline. You're trying to, your crystal ball is somewhat cloudy. You're looking into the offseason. If you're a cap team like so many are, certainly the Maple Leafs, you can't count on free agency. If you've drafted and developed well and you've got a good problem, which is having these top-end players and having to extend them, that's a part of the process too, right? So, I mean, for the most part, fellas, I think Toronto likes the way they're positioned. Tree, I thought, did a good job of meeting with the media today. Didn't overpromise. He was fairly honest, I think, in how he looks at his team. I wonder a little bit about that back end. I think we're all curious to see whether John Klingberg can find some form, not return to form, find some form, because last year wasn't good. But beyond that, I think that's the only area that, and he didn't admit to it being Brad Treliving, I think that's the area that has the biggest question mark. I really do. I think he's going to be on the hunt for a defenseman, unless there's a reason, and Klingberg can be part of that solution. He doesn't need to be on the hunt for a defense. But as much as there's question up front, I think that's more in how you fit the pieces up front and whether Nyes can play into that top six like everybody wants to promise him a spot in and all of that, and what's going to become Adomi and Bertuzzi and Reeves and all of that. So to me, the bigger question mark for the Leafs is on the back end.
Darren, you talk about the back end, and we're not going to ask you every week if they're looking at a defenseman or who do you think they're going to get, but is it possible the way transactions go down now to kind of reshape your decor? I mean, or like retool it or add some like impact players. It would obviously be at the disposal of two of the current defensemen on there. Like, can you actually do it?
Yeah.
Or is that just, are we just going to say all year, man, they'd love to add a defenseman and it's just actually a pipe dream because you can't make anything happen money-wise?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it probably is going to be a pipe dream. Unless we're talking about a place where the Maple Leafs, aren't willing to stomach the notion of an own rental. If Nylander doesn't want to negotiate in season, or maybe his year hasn't gone as well as whatever the scenario. And I'm not trying to paint a picture here of doom and gloom. That's just a reality of how teams have to, face certain situations. If you can turn a player like that into a top three defense, well, maybe that's how you get it done. But I'm going to go back to what Brian talked about a minute ago. From the trade deadline forward, you don't magically find those players. You don't, unless the bottom falls out of another club who's got a defenseman who is finally hitting the button of a rebuild and is saying, okay, this guy's a year or two from a contract. We can maximize the return. I mean, it's almost a perfect scenario, if not a perfect storm. But I think Toronto would be in that market. I think they will be at some point this season, unless a Klingberg or the group as we know it plays beyond their potential, not up to their potential. We all know what Riley's about and TJ Brody and go down the list. But Toronto needs more from those guys, but they need more from everyone on that.
Just a side note on defensive cores. You guys pay attention to, like, Carolina's sixth defenseman is Tony DeAngelo. Yeah. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, that defensive core at Carolina was Slavin, Burns, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Dmitry Orlov,
crazy.
and Tony DeAngelo. Like,
And
that's
they
a
got that
six-pack.
I think his name's Chatwick. He's
Chat-
really good. He's
kid that played
good.
in Vancouver. So that's a 7-pack. That could be the deepest defensive core in the league. You start laying, things on top of each other. You're right. Like, there's going to be a lot of talk about the Leafs, and I don't know where you're at with this, Dregs, is, and Brian brought this point up, and it's a great point, because I don't think people are worried about regular season Leafs as fans and in the media.
Noodles.
We're looking at what? Go ahead. Oh,
Well, if you just brought up Carolina, and as good a decor as they have, and as good a team as they have, and they've got the best coach in the National Hockey League as of right now, along with John Cooper and our boy Pete DeBoer. But you know what they're looking for? They're looking for success in the playoffs, and they're the same as Toronto. They need those star forwards to get to the front of the net and get closer to the net. That's what they need. We can talk about their decor all you want, but them in Toronto, they're looking for the same things come playoff time.
Agreed. Let's throw another Canadian team into the mix. Like, fellas, trading star players isn't what it once was. Like, teams don't line up anymore because maybe they're worried about what they have. Maybe they're worried about what they saw with that guy. Like, I'm thinking about Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck, right? There was sticker shock on Connor Hellebuyck in the offseason because, it was reported, we reported it, that he was potentially looking for Vasilevsky money in the or in an extension. And Mark Scheifele, Mark Scheifele's he's put up good numbers in the NHL, but there really wasn't any trade interest. And it's not like Winnipeg was trying to push these guys. They were being was fair and honest, right? Well, how do you not generate a market for those guys? So I don't know. Maybe it's gotten way more difficult to trade for, let's call them marquee players, if that's fair. Maybe they're not superstars or marquee players. It's gotten way more difficult to move those pieces in season and now evidently, out of season. So I would go on this one. I look at that line of D and I'm like, holy smokes. Like, that's as good as there is. But they have to have some question of, and uncertainty going into the season as they didn't go as deep as they were counting on.
With Darren Dreger, TSN Hockey Insider, do you think if a team really wanted Steven Stamkos, they could trade for him today?
No, because I think the owner would step in. And I don't don't know ownership of the Tampa Bay Lightning at all. I know that Julian Brisebois, the general manager, has done a good job of managing the cap. We've seen this guy, you talk about deadline deals, pull rabbits out of the hat how many times here, right? And often it worked out to Stanley Cup championships. This, for me, and this is just my opinion, there's no way Stamkos is standing in front of the cameras and talking to the media and saying what he said unless he's genuinely hurt by the lack of interest that was expressed by the organization this offseason. And every team has cap issues. Not every team, but the in the hunt for a Stanley Cup have cap issues. For Stamkos to say what he said, I just feel like that's a misstep there by management, isn't it? Like, at some point, don't you have to engage with him this offseason with Newport and say, we can't put any hard numbers, the cap. Our situation is what we're telling you is that we're going to.
Okay, we got to throw you on hold, Dregs. We're losing you, man. You've been in and out. We'll see if we can get Dregs back. But we've had this chat today. If you're not familiar with it, if you're just tuning in, Steven Stamkos addressed the media, and he's a year away from UFA status, and he admitted he was looking for contract extension. Like, he said it was very important to him, and it never happened. And not only did it not happen, he's like, we haven't had any conversations. Which, to me, it does feel offside. I think he deserves honesty. He doesn't deserve a guaranteed contract, a long-term contract of big money.
You're cheesed about it.
Well, exactly. And I think he should be. He's the longest-standing Tampa Bay Lightning. He's the captain. He's won cups. He had a great year last year. He's 33. It's not like he's 43. I think Brisebois owes him honesty.
But I think in this day and age, Hayes, I don't know how many teams are going to give the Kobe contract for the championships. Because you know that contract he signed? They're just not out there anymore.
And they're not shrewd. It's not smart to do that.
But here's the thing, guys. they work like Tampa works different, right? Julien Brisebois, he thinks outside the box. Like, I don't think it'll ever get to a point like Steven Stamkos. They're just not going to offer him anything. It's more going to be, hey, we've got to figure out what this looks like. You're right. I think communication could probably, Brisebois could have probably talked to the Newport group and said, you know what, just give us some time. We're working through a lot of things. But for me, how many times have we said this? Like, Tampa has been the gold standard for the way, the salary cap, for the way that they've held guys' feet to the fire. Tampa's the standard. Guys are only making $9 million. Everyone else falls in underneath. And now they take a hard stance or they take a different stance and we're like, you got to do this. I think they're very comfortable with the way that they like to do business.
And I don't think Brisebois has been flushing calls. If he's been doing that, I don't think
Dregs is back.
Right.
You've been listening to this, Dregs. Go ahead. You can respond to that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with all of it. I'm not, before I lost the signal here, I'm not suggesting that Julien Brisebois purposely is trying to disrespect or tried to disrespect Steven Stamkos. That would be ridiculous to suggest. And I understand it's a business, but it does come to a time and place where with certain players, you just got to put your cards on the desk. Like, you just say to Stamkos, all right, well, or to Newport, what are you looking for? If you're looking to hit home run or a grand slam again financially in term and money, well, we're probably not going to be able to do that. But here's what we're comfortable doing is if we forecast what the future looks like. And you go through the parameters of that. And I assumed that was happening this summer. But based on Steven Stamkos saying what he said to the media today, pretty clear that didn't happen and pretty clear that he's hurt by it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that puts the general manager in a very good spot.
No, we'll see. I don't think this story's over. All right, Dregs, we'll leave it there. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, boys, have a good night.
Darren Dreger, TSN Hockey Insider.
And Hagel is a great thing to bring up when you're the athlete and you're the captain and you're the guy that rips home 40, 50, 60, 2 cups. Yeah. And it's like, well, you had to lock up Hagel for 6 years. Mm-hmm. I understand you gave up 2 first-round picks to get him, but you had to give that guy $6 million over 6 years or whatever the hell they gave him. Was that necessary?
Well, I just think
I don't know.
We're so hard on other organizations like they catered, they caved, and it's all about the players. Make sure they're happy, and then an organization holds strong or just goes on their time frame, and it's like can't hurt his feelings. Like it's more, I think they'll get something done. Steven Stamkos is a Hall of Famer. He's an unbelievable player. And we talked about this last hour. He's still got great game left at 33 years old.
He might pull a Pietrangelo noodles. Maybe he just says, you know what? Alex was in the same position. Everybody around there was getting paid. Justin Falk was getting paid, a guy that hadn't been there that long. This guy's getting paid and that guy's getting paid. And Petro's like, I was a captain. I still got a lot of years left, and you guys don't want to pay me. And then it got to a point where he had the stones to say, screw you, I'm leaving. Maybe Stammer pulls that stunt. Who knows? But I don't think he would generally want to do that. Well, living in Tampa is a good gig, man. It's a great gig. Making that kind of cake, that lifestyle, that weather, it's a great lifestyle.
But I also think the organization will come to the table with something like, not even cooler heads, because I don't think this is at an impasse. It's more just like, hey, we haven't talked. I think the attention, like Steven Stamkos brings that attention today. I guarantee you there's some phone calls going on right now. Yeah. Because, unless Julien Brisebois absolutely flushed Newport's calls this summer, I think there's got to be some dialogue going on right now. He's your captain. He's your Hall of Famer. He's the face of your organization. You got to make sure he's taken care of. At least to your point, Brian, some respect.
That's all it. That's just smart business. Like no one's saying screw up your cap. No one's saying trade other people so you keep Stamkos. But the fact is, he was on record publicly saying it's important for him to get an extension done. You don't hear that a lot. Right. And then today he reiterated that, yes, it was something I wanted to happen. It didn't. Okay. Then Brisebois is not stupid. Like he would have known all summer. It's like trying to avoid someone you really don't want to have a stop and chat with. He would have all summer been like, when's this guy calling? When's his agent calling? When's it going to happen? Right? Because he's not dumb. He knew it. He knows it. And it didn't happen. And now Stamkos is going public saying, hey, I'm not happy about it. What's going to happen here? Again, it doesn't mean a contract gets knocked out. But I think at a minimum, you should be honest with the guy about how you plan on approaching this moving forward. And then it's up to Stamkos to determine if he wants to stay or not. Right? Eventually, that's going to have to happen. He's going to have to make that call. Pinball Clemons has decided to stay on with an extension as the GM of the Toronto Argonauts. The Argos are red hot this year. Best team in the Canadian Football League. Not even close. Not even close. They're running away with the East. They're going to have home field. Looks like they're going to the Grey Cup back-to-back. Looks like they probably will be heavy favorites to win it. Catch up with Pinball. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. And Vladi Guerrero Jr. has been removed from the lineup tonight. Oof. Right knee discomfort. So he's out. Well, what do we make of that late omission from the lineup? We'll get to that more still to come. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Pinball's coming up here in a moment. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Hopefully some time for a little Jerry's After Dark as well. Vladi's been pulled from the lineup tonight. Knee discomfort, not good. Right? They already alluded to it earlier today that he's banged up, yet he was in the lineup as a DH. I guess he probably took batting practice and just said, no dice. And we were talking about it to start the hour. Like, at what point does it become a strategic move to give him a day off? If he's that banged up, and I guess this is the decision. Someone has made the call, and I doubt it's Vladi. Like, I would guess they reasoned with him. He has to know his own body. He's got to go to Schneider and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. But
dude, I'm just concerned about anything after tonight. Like, is this something that's going to be more than tonight? That's the concern.
Exactly. And you got to think he's going to DH. The problem with that is I don't think they want Bo Bichette playing short every single day. Like, I think their plan was with Bo, who's clearly banged up himself, slide in a DH day here or there. If you're going to do that with Vladi, how's this going to work out? Right. It's going to get complicated. You know, that's what's coming here for Schneider and the Jays. But Vladi out of the lineup tonight. General knee discomfort. So take that for what it's worth. The Argos back in action this weekend. The Argos, hottest team in the CFL, best team in the CFL. All they do is dummy teams. Yeah, they're 11-1. They're running away from they've already clinched a playoff spot. It's mid-September. That's how good it's been. And listen, it was a tough scene here in Toronto a couple of years ago. Right? We talked about it. We had members of the organization on. We're like, what's going on here? Where's this team going? And what did they decide to do? Down at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, they called in our next guest. That would be one of the greats in Toronto sports history, and the GM of the Argos here is our good friend Michael Pinball Clemons. How you doing, Pinball?
Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Oh, we're doing really well. Not as good as you, man. Your team's 11-1, and now you got an extension. You're sticking around. Take us through this. Why continue to run the show here? It's going so well in Toronto.
Well, I think the most urgent message of the day is let's go Blue Jays.
Yes, there you go. I'm with you on that.
Yes, now I'm from Dunedin, Florida, where the Blue Jays train, and so I was a Blue Jays fan before I knew anything about the Argos. So excited about what's happening there, and let's go Jays. But do want to say that I have the pleasure of working with. I always tell our guys, if you're the smartest guy in the room, it's your own fault. Right. And so our job is to put excellence around us. And we've been able to do that, starting with Ryan Dinwiddie, our head coach. And it's just it's been a time where we really had a lot of growth. And I think it's because people have not only, do you find good talent, right? But people have found space for each other to exist, right? And it's a great culture that we're cultivating, and we are just starting. Yes, we did come in first place now 3 years in a row, right? But the idea here is hopefully we're just starting and building something, and that the best is yet to come, not behind us.
Pinball, when you took the job, what was like the original message? Because as Brian alluded to, it wasn't good. You came in, and did you sit in a boardroom and say, we need character in here, we just need good football players, we need size, competitiveness, or is it just a combination of everything?
When you have the initial conversation, it really is just trying to assess where you are, right? You have to know where you are before you're able to get to where you want to go. And so it wasn't all broken, right? When you look at something and you haven't done well in a couple of years, it can seem overwhelming, right? But the first thing is, hey, what do we do? What do we do well? Is there anything that we do well here? And we have several players that were part of that beginning. Not all of them are still here, right? But they were part of getting us going and moving in the right direction. Our goal at the very beginning is just boring. Right. We want to be one of those boring teams, not the ones that have always got something going on. There's always we just be a boring team that wins the time, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we talked about, and in doing so. If we talk from a strategic standpoint, you start with defense, right? If they don't score, we can't lose. Right, we might not win, but we can't lose, right? But so we started out with defense and with a focus there, and our further focus, as we talked about from day one, was to be able to get to the Grey Cup every 3 years, at least once every 3 years, right? And in our league, I think you can. Build things up and get things moving in the right direction. That's not an unreasonable task, is to be able to get there once every 3 years. Now we did get a chance to win it last year, but that's behind us. That don't mean we get a chance to wait for 3 years now to do it again. We want to try to get right on it, and so hopefully we'll get a chance to get back there again this year. But this whole thing is in a great team effort. So many great thoughts and ideas have been brought to the table. It's not, a single message that comes from on high, right? We are a compatible group that work really well together, and we're really excited about not just today, but where we're going.
Pinball, you talked about management, you talked about coaching. Let's take it on the field. Has Chad Kelly been as dominant and as expected and as advertised as you wanted him for this season?
I think we have to suggest that he's exceeded expectations. Certainly, we hoped. We knew the talent that he had. That's why we chose to trade for him. But in saying that, he's exceeded expectations, I think, for most everyone. Maybe not for himself, maybe there's others, but certainly for us in our room, he has exceeded expectations. And it's what you don't see that is, for us, been the greatest surprise. And in saying that, he has not only during the off season did he stay here, and he and Dejan Brissett, who has come on and had a wonderful year this year, and they were there seemingly every day. Tavares Daniels and a few other guys joined them later, but not only that. In practice, right? He's the guy to stop practice and say, "Oh, we need to do a little reset here, guys." Right? He's also the guy who challenges and not challenges, but welcomes. I probably is a better word. Our players to spend a little bit more time in the film room after practice, right? This is after the designated time that they have. They're spending extra additional time to learn, and he is the one who has galvanized that group. He's the one who's brought them together. A little shout out to to Mac last year. He had those hats and did some of those things, but I think Chad this year has taken that to another level.
Pinball, do you want to weigh in on the running back situation, whether it be south of the border or anywhere? It seems like running backs are being talked about like they're often injured and maybe they always seem to be fighting for contracts. What's your take on the status of running back position these days?
Well, it is not really something that it's a talking point for people, right? But it's not really the kind of stuff that they're talking about is not really something that I care to analyze. The value of the running back today isn't the same as it was because, and when people look at the NFL, their game is a more exciting game. Because it looks a lot more like our game. They're putting the ball in the air more. They're doing those kinds of things that create excitement. And sometimes you have running backs that are complementary to that. I was a little guy who caught a lot of balls out of the backfield, and so this kind of football actually complements what I do or was able to do. But in terms of overanalyzing things and the running back is less featured today because we put the ball in the air more because we found out that if we work at it hard enough, quarterbacks can be a little bit more efficient. They're throwing for a higher passing percentage today, which means in doing that, you gain more yards, you move the ball down the field faster, and the game is more exciting. And so in some way, what is the challenge of the running back is the pleasure of the rest of us who watch the games and enjoy the games. And so it is a position that requires that you both run and catch the ball, and there's really no other position you do that with any level of repetition. And so the running back in many cases will become at some point could become more valuable because of what he does. But transition and things, and the way things go, there are trends and they're part of those trends right now. And it's not a whole lot else to talk about. I mean, if you're going to get paid and get honored by your production and if you're not getting a chance to run the ball, right? But things shift, and it won't be long from now where someone will figure out something that's a little bit more dynamic to do or a way to offset the competition, and then they quite possibly will be in vogue again. But I really like the kind of football that's being played on both sides of the border today.
Well, when it comes to up here and setting trends, Pinball, that's your job, and you're sticking around for quite some time here as the GM of the Argos. So congrats on the extension. Congrats on the incredible season so far, 11-1. Good luck this weekend, and we'll do it again down the road. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, and have a great one, okay? And let's go Blue Jays.
Yes, let's go Blue Jays. There you go. Pinball's on the bandwagon. He's always been there from Dunedin. He loved the Jays back in the day. So, Argos red hot. Got the Tabbies in town this week, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend, man. You get down to BMO Field. It's electric downtown. Like September's maybe the craziest month in Toronto, where you got TIFF, you got the Argos, you got Toronto FC, you got a bunch of concerts. Like Budweiser Stage has had an incredible lineup all summer.
Unbelievable.
They've been rocking down there.
You were enjoying yourself last weekend, weren't you there?
I was down there. Morgan Wallen was in town for 3 straight nights selling it out. It was wild down there on Saturday, man. And I think Toronto FC was playing a home game, I believe. And
how's the parking situation? That's the only thing that frustrated me.
Show.
Like I told you guys, I went to that Argo game. It was awesome. Argo Stampeders. But the X was going on. There was a concert at Budweiser Stage. Like just getting downtown. It took us 2 hours to get downtown and then park. It was just a circus.
It's insane.
Do I have to explain this to you guys? Get a driver. drops you off right in front of the show.
Doesn't
and then he pick.
Yeah,
no, no.
it doesn't
And then he
change the
picks you up.
traffic.
Then he
Doesn't
picks
change
you
the
up.
traffic, though. Yes, I hear what you're saying. That actually is pretty sound advice. Doesn't change the traffic, though.
I get it. I just want to explain. If you want to park a car, you're adding an hour and a half of misery to your life.
Yeah.
Get out, go to the venue.
That happened with
And then
us. That happened with us.
I agree. I will say, I the other day, it was a Sunday, though, but it was a busy Sunday. I went down to Real Sports to meet some buddies. I took the up train from the airport.
Oh, that's
It's pretty
electric.
impressive.
Oh, it flies right
awesome.
to Union.
And hey, I'll take it
Yeah.
a step further.
Outstanding.
You can park in my driveway.
That's
I'll
a good
drive you
play.
down and then pick you up, and then you go home.
No, I don't think you will, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I can't trust you.
I don't believe you.
You're like you say,
I'll call you and be
Kikuchi,
like,
dude.
can't do it, buds.
Yeah, sorry,
I
buds.
guarantee you, like
do
after,
it.
like
That's not sorry, buds. If I say I'm going to pick you up, I'll pick you up.
No, you'll fall
you'll drop
asleep.
us off, and then we'll call you afterwards. You're like, I'm sorry, man, I
Yeah,
can't do it.
no
buds.
chance I'm doing
I'm
that.
sleeping. Take
But
a cab
that's the
here.
play. Any Budweiser stage, you park it in my driveway, and I'll get you down there.
That's probably that's a reasonable option, and
It's
I
a great
appreciate
offer.
that.
Appreciate the offer.
But I
yes.
was coming in, you know where I live outside the city now, but like I had friends coming in from London, and it took them like 30 minutes more than it took me. They're from London, Ontario, and they're like, yeah, we're here. They beat us to Budweiser Station.
That is frightening.
Insane how long it takes down the 401, the Parkway, getting off
Yeah.
the lake shore is insane. I don't know. But at the
Yeah,
same time, that's where the action is. You want to be downtown?
is.
It's a beautiful thing.
Was. Yeah.
Beautiful. And the Jays were
agree.
playing. The Jays were playing the Sox. That game went to extra innings, so people were it was crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
But
Full house downtown.
yeah, it was. What are you going to do? All right.
Exactly.
Little Jerry's After Dark. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Gosman, 6+ Ks tonight. I think Gosman goes off. I think I could see him hitting 8, 9, 10 strikeouts tonight. That's an alternate strikeout line. I like 6+. Jay's money line over the Yankees. All right. They're playing for Kikuchi tonight. Forget Vladi. I know Vladi's out, and that sucks. Vladi's legitimately hurt, but Kikuchi didn't get the necessary sleep 2 nights ago. I think he slept like a king last night. I saw online, I guess he wanted to address the sleeping thing. He just said, hey, just so you guys know, that's only when I'm starting, right? When I'm not starting, I'm looking for 8 to 10 hours. He sleeps 10 hours when he's not starting. All this guy does is sleep. You say Kikuchi. I love this guy. Jay's money line tonight. Dodgers money line against the Tigers. That parlay paying plus 169. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. Only 10 hours when I'm not pitching.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
I honestly,
likes to shut down.
He loves to shut it down.
Hayes, when's the last time you've slept 10? You've got 2 young girls.
Since before I had kids, like even when I'm on the road or whatever, I can't anymore. Like I can't do it anymore.
Well, the kids are calling in the morning. That's what it is too. Or
Exactly.
you're calling to check in. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, oh man, 10 hours.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'll catch up and get 10. 14, I don't think is going to happen again. You guys want to fire up a little Jerry's After Dark?
Go
Yeah, let's
ahead.
do
I'd
it.
love to.
The Montreal Canadiens and their fan base will kick Hazy B in the junk where he deserves it. They will play meaningful games and push for a playoff spot in April.
Yeah. People aren't happy with me in Montreal, man. How could I possibly
And
be
by the way, a
honest?
little side note, like, we are a Toronto station, just to let you know. Like this, like we've been, we talk about everything, but we are a Toronto program. We don't like hate any other organizations. We talk about them, and we have opinions. So save your tweets and your childish behavior because nobody cares. We have a job to do. We have opinions. We have thoughts about certain teams. We don't hate anybody, and we don't wish any lack of success.
Well, and the crazy thing is, like yesterday I was saying, and I stand by this, I think Montreal will be one of the worst teams in the league. Last year, I think they were 6th worst. They had 68 points. So could they be the 8th worst, 10th worst? Possibly. I don't think
it's
that's
just a statement. It's a generic blanketing statement about their
it's a
overall
lukewarm
performance.
take. It's not a hot take. Like no
No.
one on
Yeah.
earth thinks the Habs are like
I
a
know.
competitive
All
team.
three of us had agreed that
Exactly.
they weren't a playoff team. The only thing we differed was the meaningful games and how you define meaningful. That was it. Like there
if
was
you're
no
a grown-ass man with a family and enough with the bitching on Twitter. Oh, this guy hates the Habs. It's like we don't hate anybody.
It's all good.
We don't hate anybody.
Hey, listen, hate all you want.
Percentage
I
on
don't
this
care.
happening, I think 50% chance
That they play-
kick Hazy B in the junk.
that they push for the playoffs.
Yeah.
0%. 0%.
Yeah, I
now
mean,
you're being a jerk.
No,
Now
I'm
you
just being
everything
honest.
I just said.
I'm
Everything
just
I just
being
said.
honest. I'm just being honest. I don't think
I've
they're making the playoffs.
I've said no. I don't think they're making
It's not
the playoffs.
about that.
but
It's about pushing, making a
you said-
push.
You said
Pushing.
meaningful games. I'm high on meaningful games,
No.
but that could mean they get 80 points and they're still 10 points out of a playoff spot.
And that's not
still
a push.
meaningful games.
That's not I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
but if they finish with 80 points, that's not a push for the playoffs. That's not in late March saying, hey, if they win 12 in a row, that's not happening.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm. What did you say? Oh, you're 50%. I'm 60% because I laid out some of the roster a lot.
All right,
but
shout
outside
out
of
to
that,
Montreal.
Not high.
Shout out to Montreal.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Habs. I've been on record many times. I think they're doing a great job of selling the plan, executing the plan, but they're in the very early stages of it. They still are. Very early
Right.
stages, but I think they're doing the right thing. They should keep doing the right thing, and I expect that they will. There you go. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for checking in, helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that as well. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Key lime pie around the horn, 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.